Next is the What the Hales segment. Very briefly, before we get to the specific parts of the What the Hales segment, I'm going to have a blast from the past with my former friend Megan Fox later. Jeremy Hale's right there suing a lot of people. As you can see, this is one of several lawsuits. Lynette Preston and John Cook are his neighbors. He calls them bad neighbors. In reality, he's the bad neighbor. These aren't the only neighbors he's involved in disputes with. He claims they defamed him. It's based on marginal evidence. He claims many things. He's gone to Ohio, even though everybody lives in Florida, to get a protective order. And he's doing it because he can create YouTube content. He has a very popular YouTube channel called What the Hales. And so he updates his audience constantly with his spin. He's still claiming that there's a turncoat. There's a second lawsuit with 10 people in it, and he's still claiming there's a turncoat. And his fan, look, he appeals to people who aren't sophisticated, who are addicted to drama. He has convinced a bunch of people that certain people are bad, like Annette Preston, and they want to see her get it. And they don't care. They don't want to learn the law. They don't really understand the law, and they buy everything he's selling. And so they actually buy that there's someone who is secretly negotiating with him. Nobody's secretly negotiating with him. This second lawsuit, he served about half the people out of 10. So I think 5, but we'll give or take. There's been one motion filed. That motion has led the judge to order him to amend his complaint. The judge has referred to his current complaint as a shotgun pleading, which is a form of frivolous lawsuit. And yet he's convinced his audience that someone is flipping. Why would anyone flip? Your complaint is so bad, the judge has ordered you to refile it and prove it. Nobody's flipping on you now. But regarding the first lawsuit, his lawyer, Randall Shockett, has engaged in numerous acts of unethical behavior. None, I believe, more than the one we're going to talk about. We have a subsegment that we haven't done in a while that I call Dueling Lawyers. And I got a Dueling Lawyers segment. We have a motion for attorney fees. I'm going to present evidence from Bruce Matskin, who filed this motion. And then I'm going to present evidence from Randall Shockett's response. And you're going to play the judge. The judge's name is Magistrate Bozo. So don't act like a bozo. Don't be like that guy. Be a good judge. And you know what? For the purposes of this thing, I don't know how it happened. Trump nominated you 55-45 in the Senate. You're an Article 3 judge. I made that up. But for the purposes of this thing,
I'm a hypothetical. Yes.
Right. All right. So motion for attorney fees. The defendant moves for an order for the plaintiff's counsel to pay defendant reasonable attorney fee for unreasonable and vexation multiple in 5 distinct areas, noticing and taking the deposition of Amanda Martin, who was subpoenaed on the pretext of being a witness, but was questioned about personal matters completely unrelated to any claim or issue in the lawsuit, apparently to harass Ms. Martin. And hold on, let me find where he talks about here. An award of attorney fees is warranted for the plaintiff's counsel abusing deposition to harass third parties on the pretext of deeming them, quote, witnesses. On February 14th, that's of 2025, the plaintiff's counsel spent approximately 90 minutes deposing Ms. Martin about topics unrelated to any claims or issues in this case. From the question, it is clear the plaintiff had an axe to grind with Ms. Martin because she was the Lehigh County victim's advocate assigned when defendant Preston filed a state court restraining order against the plaintiff in the fall of 2023 for stalking her physically and online. Attorney Shockett questioned Ms. Martin extensively about, among other things, quote, making dirty faces at the plaintiff during a court date, making a comment to the plaintiff's then counsel that he was, quote, an asshole and psychotic, her relationship with her son, including continuing to delve into it after Ms. Martin revealed she is unaware of her son's whereabouts, her feeling about the plaintiff having publicly read her husband's obituary on YouTube, and other topics having nothing whatsoever to do with the defendants or the claims against them. Counsel's apparent aim was to use Ms. Martin, which he did repeatedly. Ms. Martin was clearly not familiar with the claims or allegations in this case and had no idea whether any of the questioning she was being subjected to was relevant. She patiently and politely answered all questions, even when Attorney Shackett's questioning upset her to the point of causing her to cry on 2 occasions. When the undersigned finally interjected that the questions had no relevance and the deposition was being used for harassment of the witness, the plaintiff's counsel began threatening motions for sanctions. As the deposition continued, Attorney Shackett's questions about personal upsetting topics continued. Miss Martin called for, quote, the other lawyer, that's Matskin. In response, the undersigned stated that he had no authority to terminate the deposition under federal rule. If it is being used to harass Miss Martin, since he did not represent her, but she could do so herself, seek a protective order. This led to more threatening sanctions by Attorney Shackett for alerting the witness to her rights, after which he stated he was done questioning the witness. And he goes on. All right. So Matskin's arguing that this deposition had nothing to do with the topic at hand. And here is the response from Shackett. I think it's this one. All right. And let me get to it. Here we go. Amanda Martin. There is no objective bad faith in taking Amanda Martin's deposition. Quote, parties may obtain discovery regarding non-privileged material that is relevant to any party's claim or defense. Information is relevant if it, quote, appears reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. Here, plaintiff has a right to take the deposition of Miss Martin because, one, Miss Martin knew Mr. Hales in 2023 as his victim's advocate by virtue. He's incorrect here. And Miss Martin knew Miss Preston in 2023 as her victim and advocate. And number 3, Miss Martin's adult son, Steve Rhett Cunningham, assaulted Mr. Hales in 2023. Prior to this assault, Mr. Hales never knew Mr. Cunningham. That means it's certainly objectively reasonable to take Miss Martin's deposition and inquire as to the facts surrounding the above circumstances. So before you render your order, explain to the audience, what is a deposition? What is the purpose of a deposition? Why would a lawyer take a deposition?
Okay, so, and I just had a bit of a power outage, and the power just came back, but I switched to my phone very briefly. That's where the change happened. But when you have a deposition is related to this discovery process in a legal proceeding. And so if somebody sue another person, they file what's called a complaint. And then the person who gets filed is called an answer. Those are pleadings. Pleadings are allegations that people make, saying you did this, you did that, you did the other thing. And the other side says, no, I didn't. I deny this, I did that, I did the other thing. So the scope of discovery is related to what is inside pleadings. If you don't talk about
All right, Richard, we got a little bit cut off, but you were explaining what depositions were, and you've got some power issues, but we'll deal with it. So continue about depositions.
Okay. So yeah, depositions are basically supposed to be related to the claims and defenses asserted by the parties. So if you have something that is contained within the allegations, it's relevant. But if you have other things, even though they're true, they're not relevant. And so the issue here is that the entire deposition was an irrelevant deposition. It had nothing at all to do with what was happening in the case. It had nothing at all to do with the claims that were made by Jeremy Hales. And therefore, if that's the case, then it is what is called sanctionable conduct. When it's conduct that and plea and everything else that wastes everybody's time, then the court is empowered to award sanctions to the other party for having to deal with it. Attorneys and costs and all the time that was involved.
how big would the sanctions be if you were the judge? This was an hour and a half deposition, according to Bruce Mansky, according to both of them.
Well, what I would do is I would ask for a bill of fees that the attorney, the time the attorney spent. I would look at that and I would award something commensurate with that time. So it cost an amount of time to prepare for the deposition. It cost an amount of time to actually prosecute the deposition. It took time to review the deposition afterwards. It took time to draft the motion. It took a lot of time to do all these different things. There were costs involved as well. So I would ask for that to be added up, and I would award all of that, as long as it was reasonable, to the other side. That's what I would do if I were the judge.
All right, yeah, you're looking at 5 to 10 hours. I would give at least 10,000 because this is extremely egregious. But what he did was just to embarrass this lady. He used the deposition. He, Megan, a whole bunch of other people they read the deposition online. They acted like this deposition is important. It's only important as far as trying to smear this woman whose only involvement in this case is she was appointed as the victim's advocate when Michelle Preston. All right, we had a couple of glitches, but I would give 10,000 because this is egregious to no end. I think you're probably right. I'm more emotional. You're probably right. You can't just throw out a number. You've got to reward based on the amount of time. But this is bad.
I think that a $5,000 amount would be pretty high for a court usually, and I think that might be the range that I would look at. You know, maybe 3,500, maybe 5,000. I don't think I'd go over 5,000 because you don't go that high usually, but that is enough to sanction the other side. You know, that's usually what it is, and it has to be paid. It's payable to the other side at that point. So
right, and that is what Matskin is asking. All right, so I have several astroturfers: Jason Hipsher, Mary Lincoln's, this Megan Fox Twitter account. It's crazy, but I gotta show you. So Mary, whoever this is, she was trying, or the person was trying out personas. So here's one where she's like, "Grandma, I needed to." Basically, here Mary is trying to give me something nice, hoping that I would say, "Oh, I'll check that out. That's cute." Right? So she sends that one day, and I don't respond, folks. Okay? And all of a sudden, the next day, she sends this. And so let me read it. "Hello, Michael. I see you're now offering me $20% off a subscription." Sometimes the Substack sends you offers. "As if you think I'd pay to read more of the same drivel you already subject me to for free on YouTube. Let me be clear. I would rather pay full price for a colonoscopy than accept your discount. You already read my emails aloud on your YouTube channel, without my permission, I might add. While your portly sidekick, Richard, or Dick, as he seemed to be fond of being called, mocked my husband Chester's name. Like, we haven't heard Chester the molester before. At least be original. The fact that you both took time out of your day to make fun of a retired woman and her beloved bourbon adjacent husband tells me everything I need to know about the quality of your, quote, investigative journalism. And let's talk about your vendetta against Megan Fox, the journalist, not the actress, though you seem equally threatened by both. Your bias is so loud I can hear it through my HOA issued sound barrier shrubs. Every piece you write reeks of resentment, pettiness, and desperation for a paywall to justify your tantrums. I will not, and I repeat, will not pay for a weekly newsletter that reads like an unhinged ex-boyfriend's Facebook status from 2013. If I wanted to watch a grown man have a meltdown about a competent woman, I'd rewatch that time Chester tried to program the DVR. So no, Michael, I will not be paying 20% to lose 100% of my sanity. I wouldn't pay for a subscription. Here's the interesting thing, Mary. You signed up for my Substack. That's why you got the email. If you hate my stuff so much, why just sign up for the free one? So, you know, and she came back after that, or he, or whoever it is, with another email that was like, hey, check this out. This email, this person, whoever it is, they're trying out personas to see which one works on me, which one
Yeah.
I'll respond to. Is it the angry person or the sweet old grandma? It's crazy. And by the way, if you send me an email, I have a right to read it on screen. And you've been sending me emails for a while. I've been reading most of them. So you keep sending them to me, acting like you're surprised I'm reading them. Of course, you're an astroturfer. I want to show people the campaign that I am being subjected to of AstroTurf. Anything you wanted to add?
I think, in my opinion, it's Jason Hipster. I think that he's the one doing it. He's got nothing better to do. He's a low level like minor leaguer, and that's what he's trying to get something. He's trying to bootlick all the way up to become a favored pet status of Jeremy Hales. We'll see.
All right. So you mentioned that one thing that I don't know if troubling is the right word. Megan Fox and I, my former friend Megan Fox and I, worked hand in hand for about a year on family court stuff from early 2021 to early 2022. And she has removed most, not all, but most of those videos. And you thought that was revealing and troubling, am I right?
That's a scumbag move. You have victims there that their stories need to be out there. Family court, the issue is so big, and to take away and de-amplify the voices of victims is just the most scumbag move you could do.
All right, so I interviewed a woman named Melinda Sherwin, who knows both of us, who watched a lot of the videos, and I asked her about these videos. And so let's listen, and then I got a surprise. Now, you watched a lot of the live streams that Megan and I did in 2021 and into early 2022, right?
Yes, I loved them.
Yeah.
And they were very important and gave.
Why were they important? Why were they important?
Because they were informative and made thousands of people, just by the numbers that you got. Remember the Missouri case of all those third-party appointees in that one room? That has thousands of views on it.
Right.
And so
we did a press conference.
You and Megan worked so hard on that issue, and it gave a lot of hope and information to people that didn't have it before.
Megan she has systematically removed almost all of those live streams. You guys are looking at one on the screen. This is from a recent article. Once she noticed that live stream was on there. And by the way, I said my former friend Megan has moved most of the live streams we did together in 2021, but this one remains for now. It does not remain anymore. It remained when I wrote it. What do you think of her removing all of the live streams, most of the live streams?
Those were historical. They will be looked at as historical documents that would have broken through this deep state. I call it a deep state cabal of family law.
Not
trafficking
anymore.
Children. Trafficking children.
Not anymore,
Trafficking
Melinda.
Children through the courts. So
not anymore, because Megan doesn't care. Megan's removed them all. They're no longer a historical document because they're no longer available. She doesn't care about any of the family court victims that she used to help. They are pawns in her little game. She's got a beef with me, so she removes all of our live streams, including interviews we did, including audio that we put out there, including other information we put out there. Both of us, not just me, not just her. Both of us. She doesn't care about any of that. All right. So, as a surprise, there are a handful of live streams that I found that are still online. So I wanted to play one, and after I do, I'll explain what's going on. So here is Megan and I. Now, this is Cindy Randolph. That's me. That's Megan. Cindy was involved in arguably the most important and the best journalism that I think Megan ever did. Her, at the time, still husband, Chuck Haynes, had been convicted of molesting one of her daughters. I believe it's his stepdaughter. Another stepdaughter, Michaela, killed herself rather than being molested by him. He wanted access to the third daughter until Megan stepped in, even though he was going to jail for child molestation. And so we had Cindy on, but let's just watch it for a little while and then we'll talk about it. So this is me, Megan, and Cindy Randolph.
To explain to me what you're seeing here, okay? Because we haven't been able to explain it yet, but I think you're the one who knows what is happening here. I'm going to go to the Guardian ad litem, the leaked video. Hold on, let's see, stop screen, share screen. I'm going to go to the leaked video, and I have, I want to play a clip from you, and then 2 clips, and then I want you to tell me what you think about this, because I believe that Sharon Remus and Sarah Pleading are referring to your case. Well, I think that's what it is. Maybe not.
Sarah Mahler sent several of us an email saying her client in a paternity case was sent something via U.S. mail about this. So how did somebody get into the court record on somebody should be closed? Hank and I did this just this morning, a test. And when you're a lawyer and you...
All right, now we're going to go to 903 where she talks about it again. Here we go.
In Sarah Mahler's case, the plaintiff's attorney called...
So yes, and I will tell you, Larry got the call from the other attorney, so he could give you more details, Sarah, if after this call you wanted to call Larry and get more information. I actually called, I knew Judge, because I've been involved with this, and Judge Burton, with the email that you sent, I put a call into Judge Burton so he could look into that, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but when I talked to his clerk, she's like, he is so overwhelmed with everything that, you know, so I have information about that. I can get that to you after the call, but the attorney actually called the other counsel and kind of left a nasty message that they do have saved. So that may be also something they...
All right.
A nasty gram, if you will.
I'm so good at the screen stopping too. Look at that that screenshot.
Oh, yeah.
Cindy, do you recognize what they are speaking about here?
Not for sure. I couldn't say.
All right. So Megan goes on to speculate that they were talking about Cindy's case. I'm not sure she's right. And I did notice she does speculate more than I probably realized at the time. But what's really interesting that what you saw with that woman, Sharon Remus, who was gossiping about her case, it's the best way I can describe it. That's from the St. Louis Family Court Corruption. That's what the title of the video is. That's the Zoom conference of nearly 40 corrupt guardian ad litem. And if you don't believe they're corrupt, what do you think happened right there? So what's really interesting, you watched it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, so
I'm still having my technical difficulties, but I saw it.
All right, I think you should just go to audio. That's probably better.
Well, I'm setting up a. Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, what's interesting is she is gossiping about a case that I don't believe she's on. And that's probably inappropriate. But even more inappropriate is that she called a judge, Judge Michael Burton, who probably wasn't on the case. If he was, then the unethical act is different. If he was on the case, then she was either having an ex parte conversation with him or she was trying to steer him on a case she's not even involved in. If he wasn't on the case, he was going to try to steer a case he wasn't involved in. And that is something that we already caught. We had already by this point caught Michael Burton doing that. He had reached out to a judge in a case he wasn't on, and Burton was like the presiding judge for St. Louis County, and tried to steer a case. And that's what we used to do. That's what we used to do together. We would dig into these things and we would bust people. And that guy, Michael Burton, retired as a result of us. And now she's fronting for this low-life loser, Jeremy Hales. It's really, really sad. Anything you wanted to add about that?
I think it's terrible. I really do. I think that she used to do great work. She used to expose corruption. There are a lot of people that are hurting in the family courts because of the system. It's really a system. The business model is fraud. It's designed on multiple appointees, appointing more appointees, appointing more appointees. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to every level. Disgrace to families that have means because they are looked at like a feeding trough. It's a disgrace to families without means for children because of Title 4D and Title 4E because the courts and Violence Against Women Act because the courts are motivated to make outlandish allegations about one or other or both of the litigants, and all it hurts is the children. So
Right.
it's a
She doesn't
disgrace that
care
she would
about
do this.
she doesn't care about any of that anymore. None of it. And also, there's fatherhood.gov, which corrupts the court in favor of men. You're right, and all of that stuff we exposed. And as a result of our exposure, that got Judge Burton retired. Michaela Haynes, I mentioned, there was a law proposed called Michaela's Law that never even got to the floor that would have removed the immunity from guardian ad litem. Guardian ad litem are treated like judges. It's basically impossible to sue them. The woman who started all of this, her name is Evita Tolu. She filed a lawsuit against her guardian ad litem. Her name is Elaine Podlowski. They had the Zoom conference as a result of Elaine. And Megan has removed the interviews we did with Evita. That's how far she's taken it. And you're upset. Melinda Sherwin is upset. A lot of people are upset. And she has no justification besides pettiness for doing it. But there's a few still
And
out
it's not
there.
something a journalist ever does, Mike. It's not something a journalist ever does. You know, if you have pressure as a journalist, it's a badge of honor that people are pressuring you to take things down. A court can't tell you to take something down. The First Amendment protects you. And for her to do it so willy-nilly is just a disgrace. Really is.
Right. And if she got pressure, it was from one guy. Nobody except for Jeremy Hales would want her to remove that. I think that's the end of the What the Hales segment, unless there's something you want to talk about related to What the Hales.
Well, I think that I want to give a new name to Shocket. You know, we call him Sprocket, but I think I want to call him Shoop. You remember the Shoop song with Salt and Pepper? They have the lyric about the shotgun. The shotgun bang. So I think I'm gonna incorporate some of the Salt and Pepper into Shoop Sprockets. Shoop Sprockets might be my new name for him. So I'm gonna have something coming out this week, a video on Shoop Sprockets.
I do have one thing. This story is extremely partisan, and people take sides. It's definitely not a good thing because most people aren't open-minded to examining evidence that may challenge their worldview that are looking at this story. First, your thoughts. Is there a way that you think that you and I can reach someone who believes that Jeremy Hales is in the right?
Well, the question is why do you believe Jeremy Hales is right? Usually what happens is the reason why you agree with something that somebody says, the first step is that you like them. That's really the first step. They talk about psychology. You're much more likely to agree with somebody you like and to disagree with somebody you dislike. And that's the thing. We see this a lot in politics. And so, people who dislike Donald Trump won't take anything that he says is true. And people who like him they take everything he says is true. I think the same dynamics in place with Jeremy Hales. I think the people that like him think that what he says is true. But that's the problem, is that just because you like him doesn't mean that what he says is true. And the question becomes, then you have to ask yourself a question. If you like him, you think he's a nice guy, is he really a nice guy if what he says is false and he knows that it is? Right. Is that the definition of somebody that's nice, that cares about you, that has your interests at heart, if fundamentally dishonest with you? That's the problem.
Remember, folks, about 2 months ago, he claimed that he went to Levi County and federal authorities about us, that they have started an investigation. He lied. No one started anything. He claimed that that I or both of us were engaged in solicitation to harass. He made up a legal term. He made something up. All right. There is no mole. He's made it up. But the people who follow him, look, the great evidence is this thing with Megan, where she accused falsely Michelle Preston of having Munchausen, even though she never used the term. So the first thing that they did when I broke that story was to say, well, Megan never said Munchausen. And of course, in my article, I said she never did, except she accused Michelle of faking her daughter's illness, which is the very definition of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So then after that article comes out, I get a letter from Michelle's doctor that says, yeah, this girl has GA1 and Michelle has done such a good job. She's kept her alive. Said the letter's fake. These people, they will believe anything to continue the narrative. And there's no way I can convince them that the letter is real. They actually went online and they said, this is not the stationery that USF uses, University of South Florida. That's where it came from. As if online you would have the stationery that USF uses. And by the way, it's not USF, it's USF Hospital. And it's not even USF Hospital, it's USF Hospital Pediatrics Department. And it's not even USF Hospital Pediatrics Department, USF Hospital Pediatrics Department, Division of Genetics and Metabolism. Any of those may have their own stationery. The only way you'd know is if you talk to someone in the division who said, no, this is the only stationery we use, and it's not the stationery you have. You have no idea what stationery that
even better.
doctors use.
Yeah. Even better, Mike, like if you were to do the investigation, you would go and you would call up the person and you would say, is this the stationery? And then you'd ask them, can you send me something on your actual stationery saying that you examined the letter and that doesn't appear to be on the stationery? And then you would publish the letter on the actual stationery. I challenge them to do that. I challenge them to go there and get someone to examine that stationery, the specimen stationery, and say, this is not the stationery. Give me somebody from USF Hospital that can do that, and then we'll have an issue. But there's no issue. All it is now is bluster. It's spin. It's basically unadulterated bullshit is what it is in plain English.
It is, and the crazy thing is, when I'm going to get the letter up. First of all, the letter, they block it out, but it's auto-signed by the doctor. So look, to whom it may concern, I am writing this letter regarding my patient, and it's her daughter's name. She is a 4-year-old female with glutardic acidemia type 1 GA, diagnosed at birth via Florida newborn screening. All right, so in order for someone to fake that letter, they would have to know that Florida newborn screening exists and that you would do it to find out if she has this rare metabolic disorder, right? All right, she's been under my care since 11/06/2019. For her rare metabolic disorder. When she has been under my care for her condition, her adoptive mom, Lynette Preston, has been present at every appointment, followed all metabolic emergency protocols. You think a layman would come up with the metabolic emergency proprotocols? You think that's fake? Are you kidding?
Metabolic, yeah.
Right, metabolic. Yeah. I'm sorry. And recommendations for medical care. The proper medical care mom provides at home includes administering medications, a protein-restricted diet, metabolic formula, G-tube site care, and close monitoring for the illness. You're right. A layman would make that up. And as you can see, there's the AutoPen. There is a pediatrics department. There is a division of genetics and metabolism at the University of South Florida. And you think she made all that up? Like she's that good. She could, to that detail, make up a letter.
There's only one way to figure it out, and that's to call them up and to say that this is illegitimate. At that point, there's no reason to disprove or disbelieve Lynette Preston at this point, until you get somebody that has credible evidence to the contrary.
And folks, I won't mention the doctor's name. However, there's only 5 of them, but Ms. Preston mentioned the doctor that she has, and that is one of the doctors in that division. All right. So, but look, they want, you know what they wanted me to do was to call the doctor and confirm it with the doctor. And in order for me to do that, Michelle would have to waive her HIPAA rights. That's possible. It is time consuming. Hospitals don't just do that. There's a whole bunch of paperwork you're going to have to sign.
You got to sign a form, and it's a whole bunch
probably
of issues.
More than one. They're not going to let you waive HIPAA without being certain. But
you could call up, Mike. You could call up and ask about the specimen of the letterhead. You could always do that, and they may or may not talk to you. They haven't even taken that step.
Right. Yeah. No, they have. You're right.
It's not up to you to do that. It's up to them.
Right. Right. And by the way, Megan's not doing it because she knows the letter is real, but she's letting other people do it. But she's turned into a low life. Oh, before we end, hopefully in the next couple of days, I have written an article. I have sent it to you. You are in touch with Frank Parlato. Frank Report will have something on what has happened to Megan Fox soon, hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Hopefully, yeah, we'll see.
All right.